we're going to hear the story now of a Coventry man who's been honoured this week in Colchester. Why? Well, we'll get to find out. RAF Airman Cyril Smith was killed in a plane crash in 1943. Now, sadly, he never met his daughter. On Sunday, she'll be at a service in his honour. Cyrileen Ross joins me on the phone from Ayr in Scotland. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Are you going to explain how you came to get the name?
Well, obviously, his name was Cyril, and my mother wanted to call the baby after him. And had it been a boy, I would have been Cyril, but she put Ian on the end, so I think I'm a one-off.
I think you're unique. yeah, and I know that must be very important to you, then.
It is, indeed, yeah.
So I introduced there and said he never got to meet you. How did that occur?
He was killed on February 25th, 1943, and I wasn't born till May 1943, so no, I never actually knew him.
So talking just a few months?
Yes.
So he was expecting to have a child?
Yes, he knew that there was a baby on the way, obviously, and apparently used to send my mother his and his other crewmates oranges, which they got during the war. The pilots, or the airmen, they got issued with oranges because of the vitamin C. Yeah. So he used to collect them from the other men and send them to my mother for the baby.
Oranges?
Mm-hmm. Oranges.
Oh, crikey, that just, I've got 3 or 4 sat in a basket,
I know,
probably rotting away, and that tells the story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you come to have a Scottish accent, Cyrileen, then?
Well, my mother remarried when I was 4, and I did go to school in Coventry right to the end of my schooling, and then I came back up here to stay with my granny.
So Mum was originally from Scotland?
Yes, my mum was Scottish. My dad was stationed at a place called West Frew, which is near Stranraer in the west of Scotland, and the air crew used to come up to Ayr to go to the local dance, and of course that's how they met. So she was from Ayrshire, and I came back up here and never went back. So I've now been in Ayrshire longer than I was ever in Coventry.
And tell us about Dad, because obviously you do know things about him, hence that story about the oranges.
Yes.
What do you know? Has Mum been able to tell you?
Well, sadly
much?
My mum has passed on now, but yes, she used to speak about him a lot, and obviously, apparently I've inherited his, and you always think things are by nurture, but in actual fact I think some things must be inherent, because I'm an avid newspaper reader.
Okay.
From back to front, and apparently when he was serving in the RAF, he used to get his mother to keep the Coventry Evening Telegraph till he went home and leave, and then read them en masse.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And they obviously are traits that, for some reason or other, just are in the blood.
They were chunky newspapers then as well. I often go back through the archives just because it's fascinating, and the news you would get from that little local paper at the time, which was, it must have been catch-up for him. So what do you know about where he was from in Coventry? Do you know where he grew up?
Yes,
do you know what school he went to?
Well, in his childhood he stayed in Kenilworth and in the outskirts of Birmingham at one point, but when he lived in Coventry it was Ash Tree Avenue. That was the family home, was in Ash Tree Avenue, and as I say, he joined the RAF. Actually, he signed up before war broke out, so he had already enlisted in the RAF before the war broke out in 1939. And as I say, that was 43, and sadly the crew, now there were 7 of them, and there was only one that was 35. The rest were all in their early 20s. So he was obviously one of many young men, really young men, that didn't live their lives to the full. But sadly that was the way it was. But what I would really like to say is a big thank you to the people in Ardleigh, that they have done this for my dad and all the other airmen that were on that aircraft.
And
they're honouring them in this way. I think it's wonderful.
This is in Colchester?
Yeah, well, it's actually Ardleigh. It's a small village, apparently 8 miles from Colchester. But they've decided to, they've had a plaque made in memory of the men, and they're holding this ceremony on Sunday in their honour, which I think is wonderful.
And is that where the plane came down?
Yes, it came down in a farmer's field in the village of Ardleigh.
What does that mean for you? I know you're very appreciative.
A lot, because my opportunity, to pay my respects. It means a lot. And I really appreciate all the people that have been involved in the WI, and the young wives are laying on the tea for us. And I just think in this day and age, you hear so many bad news stories, and it's nice to hear there's a lot of good people out there that go the extra mile for people they don't know.
Goodness, isn't that just so true?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easier to reach out to people you don't know as well, isn't it?
Well, that's true.
Sometimes,
and I'm hoping that they've managed to find other relatives of the other airmen, and we get an opportunity to speak to each other. That would be wonderful.
You get to learn then, won't you, the pieces, I guess,
yes,
that are missing. I guess you did go on to learn about more because Mum remarried. My understanding is Mum remarried a friend of your dad's who knew him.
Yes, she did.
So
that's right.
Does that help try and understand who he is? Could he help you with that?
Absolutely. The fact that he knew him as well, and they were friends. They worked together. They both worked for the railway as railway clerks at Coventry Station. Well, the railway offices were just up from where the railway station is now. So they both worked there. That's how they became friends. So it was a continuing link, if you like, for the two men. And my mum had two boys to my stepdad, and they're very close to me and I to them. So without them, we've made a chain, if you like, a link between everybody, and which is nice.
It's really interesting, isn't it? We've been speaking earlier this morning about how some families split over financial situations, yet this is a scenario that's brought you guys together, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, have you got your frock ready? Have you got a dress outfit? What are you going to do? You're sorted for this.
I am sorted. Only yesterday, I have to say.
Well, you can change your mind, can't you?
The gentleman that's been liaising with my daughter was very kind. They gave us a forecast for Sunday, so I think it's to be fair weather, no rain, and that will make a difference too, because the ceremony's happening on the village green.
It will do outdoors, won't it?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well listen, enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
Keep in touch.
Thank you for giving me the time to thank these other people. I say it's really down to their efforts that this whole thing's happening.